21. Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone. Again, we will reconvene the board meeting. It is now 10:01 a.m. and we're going to go into a time certain 10 a.m. third public hearing. Discussion and consideration of order number 851-21-000-449-PLNG. Petition for the incorporation of the unincorporated community of Oceanside and the creation of the city of Oceanside. Petition includes a new tax rate for properties within the proposed city limits and the city of Oceanside at 80 cents per $1,000. Properties proposed to be included in the city limits of the city of Oceanside include all properties currently within the Oceanside unincorporated community boundary, with the exception of those properties located within the Capes development. So we're going to go directly to Joel, am I correct?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joel Stevens, County Counsel for the record. So this being the continuation of a quasi-judicial process, there's just a couple questions I will go through as I have at previous hearings. First question is to everyone. Is there a challenge to the jurisdiction of the Tillamook County Board of County Commissioners to hear this matter? If so, please state the challenge at this time. Hearing none, the next two questions are directed to the two commissioners present. First question, are there any conflicts of interest or personal biases that have come up since the last hearing, which was last week, to be declared by a commission member? If so, please state the bias or conflict at this time.
None.
None.
All right, both commissioners indicated none. Second question, have there been any ex parte contacts regarding the upcoming matter that a board member needs to declare? These would be anything that's come up since the last hearing, which was last week. If so, please state the ex parte contact at this time.
So I will just say that since Friday afternoon, I have received quite a stack of emails, and like we do with all emails, we have to go through them. So I'm not sure that's considered ex parte contact.
And
So
I would share the same contact. I believe I had 88 that I counted and read in my email.
I think I got more than
Lucky you.
okay, so in spite of these contacts, are you confident that you can make a decision based only on the record in this proceeding? And any decision you make will be based only on evidence in the record?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that concludes my questions. As the board's aware, since the last public hearing, petitioners have filed a motion for reconsideration. I believe all of you have seen a copy of that and reviewed it. It doesn't appear to offer new evidence. It's more of it's more in the way of arguments from petitioner. So I think it's up to the board to determine how they would like to what extent they would like to discuss or acknowledge it. I think that is up to review. Petitioners have requested that the board take this up. As indicated in the motion for reconsideration, they've also asked that it become part of the record in the proceeding. As I said, I don't think it offers any new evidence, so I don't have any objection to that. Just noting that previously the record had been closed, so we were not accepting new evidence. However, this petition doesn't appear to offer new evidence. It's more in the form of argument. So I think it's up to the commissioners to determine how they want to proceed.
So, if I may, I do want to just make one announcement before we're still in deliberation. I do want to make one announcement, and this came from Damien Laviolette, our IS director, this morning. And I just want to read what he wrote to us this morning. Users may intermittently be unable to make or join calls within the Microsoft Teams service. Apparently, this is word from Microsoft. Microsoft said we've identified that an authentication component failure may be causing impact. We're reviewing authentication errors to help us develop a remediation plan. So far this morning, during the board meeting, things went fine with Teams, but I just need to let everyone out there know that there is a possibility that Teams may go down. So I'm just warning people ahead of time. As we did this morning in the board meeting, I don't, oh, I do have that. So in the board meeting this morning, we discussed additional ways. So if you get kicked off of Teams, there are additional ways for you to view this meeting. One is to go to Jane Scott's video. She is live streaming this, correct, Jane? Thank you. You can go to tctvonline.com and click live broadcasts. That's another option for you. You can also try just calling in via phone. If you do that, you can dial 971-254-3149. Conference ID is 736-023-979#. We hope, as through the board meeting this morning, that things remain active, but I just wanted to give people out there that appraisal that Microsoft is having some problems with. So, Joe, we did receive an Oceansiders United petitioner's motion for reconsideration. I received my copy late Friday afternoon. It was hand delivered to this office apparently. So what you're saying is even this is possibly a somewhat unusual circumstance, but from what I'm hearing from you at this point, it is available for the commissioners to take up at this time. That, even though the record is closed currently, and we're in deliberations.
Correct. The record is closed. As I said, I don't think this motion contains any new evidence by petitioners. I think it's more in the form of an argument, and the main argument being to asking the board to reconsider. So, you know, petitioners have requested that the board take this up.
I think you need to use that mic, Bill. And so, Sarah, you can grab that additional mic.
Is that a little better?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. So, it doesn't appear to contain any new rep.
That mic's here, try this one. That one seems to be like super loud.
Kind of hot.
Yeah.
See if we can find a happy medium here. There you go.
Is that a little better?
Yes.
Okay. So, the petition was filed since the last hearing. It doesn't, yes, the record is closed, but the petition doesn't appear to contain any new evidence. It's more in the way of arguments. Petitioners have requested that this board take this matter up. They've asked that this motion be part of the record. As I said, it doesn't appear to contain any new evidence. So, I don't have any, I think it's up to you as the board to decide to what extent you want to consider the motion.
Thank you, Bill. Commissioner Scarr, comments?
Yeah, I was surprised to receive the petitioner's motion for reconsideration on Friday. In the last hearing, my remembrance was they were very clear that they did not desire a set-over and had requested that the board make a decision either way at that hearing on February 2nd. I also found it interesting that the petitioners felt that they were denied due process based on a vote taken at their request at a time of their request. So all of that said, I do appreciate Mr. King's desire to have a clean decision that meets his definition of due process. This is a very, very rarely used process in Oregon, and I would appreciate the opportunity to continue the conversation.
Okay. Again, a little unusual, but since county council says we can do this, I think also that what they're asking for is us to reconsider our decision to deny the vote for various reasons. I just need to let everyone in the room know that, again, there will be no public comment during this meeting. This is deliberation by the Board of Commissioners. So, where to go? This is an unusual circumstance.
So, Chair Yamamoto, if I may.
Please.
I am interested in withdrawing our oral decision and reopening the proceedings as suggested by Mr. King. In my opinion, this action would allow for concerned citizens to be involved, more time to fully explore the conversation of benefits to those impacted, and more time for Mr. King to provide details in support of this budget.
So Joel, I'm gonna be asking you a lot of questions here, Joel. So can we have discussion about any potential options before we withdraw our approval our approval to deny from last week? Or do we need to do that first? If indeed we want to even go in that direction. And I will say, since Commissioner Bell is not here, we've got 2 votes. This is a quorum. At the same time, if we have 1 aye and 1 nay, that's an automatic denial. Am I correct?
Correct, you wouldn't have a quorum vote if you,
If
the
we-
vote was
If we were
split.
split.
Right.
And that's another one of the reasons that I'm concerned about this. The decision last Wednesday was from all 3 commissioners, and we knew Commissioner Bell was not going to be here today. So again, it puts us in a little bit of a difficult position, so I will ask again. So Commissioner Bell has recommended at this point that we withdraw our denial from last Wednesday.
I mean, Commissioner Scar.
I'm sorry, my mind is going in 100 different directions, I apologize. So, again, any discussion we have, should the denial from last week, should that be withdrawn first? Or can we have a discussion before we potentially withdraw our denial from last week?
So you're in deliberations, Mr. Chair, so I
Yes.
think, you know, you can have a discussion as you see prudent. I mean, I think if there is eventually a motion to withdraw the oral decision from last week, then at some point you would need to have a discussion about how to proceed from there. And so, you know, presumably whatever is decided between the 2 of you, that could be memorialized in a second motion. But
So, okay, I understand that part. So we're good there. So we can have a discussion prior to any consideration of pulling the motion from last week. And there would only be 2 votes. So again, it could go any direction, we don't know. So about the petition, since we are discussing the petition at this point, does that mean that this petition will automatically now become part of the record?
My belief is that yes, the petition is part of the record. Petitioners have requested that it be made part of the record, and I know the record, Ms. Absher has a process for publishing the record, making it available, so, I mean, I believe the petition will be part of the record.
Okay. All right. So knowing that the petition that we received last Friday afternoon is now part of the record, I would prefer, Commissioner Scarry, that rather than immediately consider pulling our denial from last week, I think maybe we need to consider what options we might have here. Of course, our option could be to remove our denial from last week and vote to approve. As we were going through two days of testimony, last Wednesday and the Wednesday before, I mean, we were asking a lot of questions about additional information, and we actually were moving in that direction, I believe, last Wednesday, to continue the hearing. We got notice from our county counsel and Sarah Absher in consultation with the petitioners, that they would not want us to continue. They wanted an up or down vote. And I think that's why we did what we did. So I think we've got a couple of options here. We can vote to pull our denial from last week and vote to approve, or we can continue to gather more information and allow the petitioners to gather more information to make us more comfortable with a possible decision. So those are the 2 avenues that I see possible for us. Are there other avenues that we can consider at this point? So, I think we have three. We can just continue on with our denial from last week. We can pull the denial and make a vote to approve, or we can, again, remove the denial from last week and we can continue. Are those three options that we see in front of us?
I think all three of those are options at your disposal, Mr. Chairman.
And you see no other paths forward?
I think all paths would be some variation of the three paths that you've kind of already indicated, because, you know, the statute talks about either approving or denying these petitions, but it also contemplates setovers. Sub 2 of 221040, sub 2 talks about, when referring to the public hearings, at a time and place fixed for the hearing, or at any time and place at which the hearing may be continued or postponed, and then it goes into public input and things like that.
Commissioner Scar, I will ask you again, do you have any indication of which way you might be thinking here?
Well, I made a statement during the prior hearing that I really would have wished we could have received a petition that was, I think I said that was clear and obvious, right? That didn't leave us with questions around the financial feasibility and whether that was really a viable option given the leaning on TLT, the additional concerns around roads, the things that we discussed, that I would have really preferred a much clearer direction for us, but that was not what we were given. And that at the time, the petitioners were really pushing hard for a decision last week. And I feel that we did our best to work with the petitioners to give them what they asked, which was a decision last week. I myself, it was a struggle. I mean, anyone who watched our 6 hours of our 6 hours of hearings, including deliberation, could see it was a struggle. So from my perspective, I would appreciate the opportunity to revisit the decision in a slowed down way and to get the full information, to dig deeper into the financial viability and make sure we're very comfortable before we go forward. If I'm understanding correctly, the option to do that in the best way is to withdraw the decision, the oral decision, which is currently where we are, and to reopen the proceedings to allow more information. So that's certainly, you know, a direction that appeals to me. I don't know that ultimately, you know, if that will change our decision or not change our decision. Recognizing that it was a unanimous decision of the Board of Commissioners, I would also probably wish to hold that decision until Commissioner Bell could join us. So I guess maybe my question to County Council is, if we don't move to withdraw the decision today, can we hold it over for Commissioner Bell, or do we need to withdraw the decision in order to hold it over for more information on Commissioner Bell?
I think the statute gives you pretty broad discretion as far as continuing the hearing, so you're in deliberations.
Sure.
I mean, I think you could continue the hearing until Commissioner Bell is back and take up the issue of petitioner's request to reconsider at that time. Or alternatively, I think you could, because you have a quorum here, you could, if you're talking about options as far as continuing the proceedings, you could alternatively make the decision to withdraw the previous oral decision. No board order has been entered yet, as the board's aware. And then make the decision, settle the, or continue the hearing
possibility, when we continue this, to reopen the record to public testimony. And so would it be cleaner if we pulled our denial from last week, knowing that we can make the same decision again after additional testimony? Or could we just leave it and be just as clean with leaving the motion, the decision to deny from last week, is leaving that where it sits?
Well, if you were today to decide that you wanted to go ahead and make a decision that you want to withdraw the previous oral decision, as petitioners have requested, and then at that point, you're deciding between, approving or setting over. If you go ahead and make the decision today to withdraw the previous oral decision, and you're going to set it over, you probably want to go ahead and open the record now, so that new evidence can be submitted before the next hearing. So that, to have a more productive next hearing. So if you make the decision today to withdraw the previous oral decision and you want to set it over, I would recommend, in the interest of efficiency, to go ahead and open the record now, because that will allow new evidence to come in, including on some of the concerns you've expressed, before the next hearing.
So again, I think I'm not hearing a clear direction from county council.
I think what I'm hearing from county council, Chair, is that it is up to us. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Council Stevens, I think that it is up to us, that the decision to be made at this time can be done either way. I appreciate the opportunity to potentially withdraw and open the hearing so that we can move forward, so that it isn't just a denial that sits in space. I feel that is not fair to anyone in this decision. I think that if we make a decision to withdraw the oral decision, followed by a decision to continue the proceedings and reopen the record, it lets the community know that our intentions are in fact intentions to find the complete information needed to make a good decision, to offer due process as has been requested by the petitioners, to make sure that we really have considered everything we need to, and really have the information to make strong findings and provide the due process.
Commissioner Scarr, I just have to say, I think you've been a great attorney.
People say that, but normally it's just because I talk a lot, but, yeah.
Okay, so, for everyone online, please keep your cameras off, and you must remain muted online. Cameras off, you must remain muted. Thank you. There is no public comment during deliberation. Okay, so I think I would agree that it's in the best interest of all sides to continue this hearing.
So I would be prepared to make a motion if you're prepared for a motion, Chair.
So I think before we do that, however, if we are indeed going to continue this hearing, we need to have some potential dates. Sarah?
Thank you, Chair Yamamoto. I have been working with Isabel, understanding that this could be something that you would want to discuss today, given the petition request. And so I am prepared with a couple of dates that could be considered if you would like to set a date and time certain today, following a motion that passed, or as part of the motion. So, and you have your laptop, so we can compare those dates quickly if you would like to.
Thank you. Before we go there, I appreciate your analysis, and I agree. I think if we're going to continue this hearing, we need to have a time certain date. But at the same time, I think first, we should probably just revoke our last denial from the last meeting. So are we going down the road properly here?
So if your plan is to reopen the record, then yes, I think you would need to address the previous oral decision first. Because if you're reopening the record, then that's for additional consideration, including, potentially a different decision. So I think you would need to address that first.
Okay. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Okay, so I guess I will look for a motion.
I move to withdraw the oral decision made by the Board of Commissioners at the hearing on February 2nd to deny the petition for the incorporation of the unincorporated community of Oceanside.
And I would second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. So, I guess we're heading down the road for a continuation. So before we decide on a continuation, I think we need to have a time certain date on the books. So Sarah, can you help us there?
Yes, thank you, Chair Yamamoto, I'd be happy to do so. Potential dates would be March 30th for a 10 a.m. uncertain, based on my limited access of calendar viewing and Isabel's, how that looks like, that is a viable date, assuming all three commissioners are to be present. That is a date that appears that might work, along with,
That would be a Wednesday, so it would be along with our
yes,
regular board meeting.
correct.
So I just need to let everyone know, and Rachel's not here. The commissioners are losing access to commissioners' meeting rooms A and B. We're trading this with circuit court. We need a new courtroom. So sometime in the next month or two, this commissioners' meeting room A and B will become a new courtroom for circuit court. We're not exactly sure when that may happen. So if we do it on a Wednesday, we won't. We will not.
Chair Yamamoto, my recommendation would be to continue following a virtual format in this instance, so that the public can still attend, the department can still create a meeting link for these hearings that we can post on our webpage, for the public to access for the meeting. Been good results in doing that, so we're happy to continue to help provide that link moving forward. So that would address hopefully any capacity concerns.
And council, you are good with holding these, a continued public hearing strictly virtually?
Well, I don't think it would necessarily have to be strictly virtually. I agree we should, continue to utilize those options. But if we're not sure when the move out of this space is gonna occur, I think you can set a date and time certain and just indicate in the record that, we anticipate it's going to be in this room, but if it shifts to another location, then that'll be posted, so there'll be a sign outside the door if it's in another room in the courthouse or something like that. So if it does have to be shifted because of space issues or something like that, then we'll put some kind of notice.
So again, I have a concern there, even if we are in this room on a date like March 30th. Previous public hearings on this issue went very long. And Circuit Court, currently today, Circuit Court has access to A and B meeting rooms starting at 1 p.m. In the afternoon on Wednesdays. So even if we were to have meeting rooms A and B on Wednesday the 30th, we would have to be out of here before 1 p.m. So that creates another issue, a continuing issue. Sarah?
So thank you, Chair Yamamoto. So that was the first available date we could see. Another viable date could potentially be April 15th. That is a Friday.
So I think I need to ask another question here. what kind of time constraints are we under currently with this, public hearing?
So based on the statute, I'm so sorry, I need to introduce myself. Sarah Absher, Director of Community Development, for the record. Based on the statute, there is no timeline, like for, a land use review, like a quasi judicial, application. Even if we assume, because the statute requires following a quasi judicial land use proceedings, that the 150-day rule would apply to this. The petition was received in January, so we are still ultimately within that 150-day timeline, waiting until April, if in fact that 150 days applies. So there's no hard and fast date in the statute, but even if we apply that 150 days, that statutory applies to any quasi-judicial land use review process. We just received, essentially the petition came in last month. So we're looking at 5 months. So that would be January, February, March, April. That would still put us within the 150 days. My recommendation though would be to make sure that we started this the first part of April in the event we needed an additional hearing.
Yeah, I think that would, given the lively debate, the amount of information, number of public comments we received in our first round of hearings, I would expect again, an equal amount of public involvement in anything going forward, and if it's possible to start it sooner, I would think that we can find an answer to the location on the 30th of March, knowing that we have the option, I think we are moving downstairs to the Stucker room, I never get those ones. Nehalem, see? Because I don't spend a lot of time down there, but to the Nehalem room, which will have space for a limited number of people to join us in person, if I understand correctly. So I think that in the interest of continuing this in a more rapid pace, I would prefer March. It's already quite a ways out there, so.
Okay, so I think I would tend to agree with you. I think the March 30th date would work. Why don't we do a 10 a.m. time certain on March 30th? But again, the location of an in-person meeting might have to be changed. It might have to be changed to strictly a virtual meeting with very limited in-person, because if we are down in the Nestucca room, I get confused too. Again, very limited capacity. Are you good with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
So, before we go there, I just want to read portions of the petitioner's motion for reconsideration. So, this is a plea to open our minds, step back, and objectively evaluate our decision process. The last thing I want to read out of this petition, I think everyone needs to go through this petition carefully. The petitioners hope that by highlighting problematic aspects of their initial decision and identifying evidence that was originally overlooked, we can persuade the commissioners to reconsider and strike a new balance in this decision. I will say at this point that it is going to be, to me, this is going to be up to the petitioners to, and again, so I would recommend that everyone out there, everyone, we have received so many emails and things, and I can tell that there are many people that have a proclivity one way or another that did not watch our previous 2 meetings. I would recommend that everyone take the time, if you're gonna have an opinion on this, everyone needs to take the time to watch those 2 previous land use meetings on this issue. Again, just by reading what I read, again, there are people that didn't do that. And I am concerned that we're getting pressure from people that have not heard what the concerns that these commissioners had during that process. And I think that's the only way to make sure that everyone understands the decisions that were made by this board. So, I just want to put that out there.
And I would share that, and I would also remind everyone who has sent us an email, and those who will undoubtedly be doing so following today's meeting, that we are unable during the midst of this process to respond to those emails. So, and I would like to ask Director Absher and County Counsel Stevens, at this point when the record is open, when emails come directly to us, as I am certain they will, what needs to happen there?
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Scar. Yes, so if the record is reopened, we will go back to collecting all of the testimony so that we make sure we don't miss anything for the record. So those emails can come to us. We will post them for public inspection. We will create a new hearing packet for the county commissioners and for public inspection 7 days prior to the March 30th hearing. And that way, everything gets collected, it's all in the record, so that everyone has an opportunity to view everything moving forward until the chair decides to close the record again.
And so those emails, if they do come directly to us, should be forwarded to
Yes, please.
your office, and you'll.
Yes,
And
please.
so for individuals who would like to make sure that it gets into public record and that nothing gets, that it's
Right.
somehow stacked into our email, it's best to send it to the department for inclusion in the record.
So,
And
a concern of mine is, again, directing this to county council. So these emails that we received during the time that the record was closed, those should also, if indeed we vote to continue this and open testimony again, open the public record, these emails were received while the record was closed. Could they be put into the new record if indeed we should reopen the record?
So, Mr. Chair, on that issue, if the two of you vote to reopen the record, I don't think there's any harm with including those emails, as long as all emails are included, So all emails on this topic, regardless of what position they take, I think, the party sending them certainly wanted them to be considered, and there was a public comment period that was part of this morning's meeting, and this hearing is is one of the agenda items on today's meeting, since it was held on Wednesday. So, there was a public comment process as part of our board meeting this morning where those were submitted, but if the record ends up being opened again, the other option would be to tell everybody they gotta resend them. But I think it's really up to you if you want to enforce that, because once the record's open again, I think we'd be gathering them either way.
Okay, I just wanted some clarity from council. Okay, so are we good? Do we know what direction that we want to take, Commissioner?
I believe that I know which direction I would like to take.
Okay.
Tonight.
I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay. So I know that we have set that March 30th as our hearing, 10 a.m. time certain. Would it make, including that in the motion, an important part of what we do here today? Yes, okay.
And the fact that we are potentially reopening the record.
Yes, please.
If that's your intent, then yes, you would want to include that.
Okay. So I move to continue the proceedings on March 30th at 10 a.m. and to reopen the record in the matter of the petition for the incorporation of the unincorporated community of Oceanside.
So are you comfortable with that language?
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you.
No issue.
Okay, I would second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I need to have just a little more discussion here. So, even though we are reopening the record and reconvening, continuing this public hearing, everyone needs to be aware out there that because this is still a quasi-judicial process, commissioners cannot talk about what's going on here. We can't. Our hands are tied. So don't expect responses to emails, questions, because this is still going to be a quasi-judicial hearing that we cannot be biased on. And bias comes in many different ways from people in the community demanding to know why we made decisions, things of that nature. We can't do that. So I just want to make that point.
I agree, and I hope that, the spirit in which this decision is being made, which is to provide for a due process as requested, complete information on the tax rate, to, have removed the time pressure that had been placed, and to allow us the full, exploration of this to determine if this is appropriate to go in front of the voters, which is of course the ultimate request in a city and corporation. So I guess I would ask for folks' participation and patience. This is a rarely used process in the state of Oregon, and it's the decisions, and keeps hearing said the statute is silent on that, or the statute doesn't say this or doesn't say that. So I hope people will engage and work with us as we go through this rarely used process.
Okay, I would absolutely concur. And again, I just ask everyone out there, if you did not watch the previous two meetings, this is gonna be about 10 hours of video. Please avail yourself of the opportunity to watch the two previous public hearings on this matter. So, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Joel, do we have anything else on this public hearing?
Just a point of clarification for staff, Mr. Chair. Now that the public record is open again, do you want staff to include those emails that came in the public record?
I personally think that would be better.
As long as it is acceptable and appropriate, will not lead to a point of contention later in the process should someone choose should it not go the direction of someone's desire, and should it be appealed, as long as that is not a point that could then be brought up to say that those records didn't belong. As long as we're all clear that that is not a legal sticking point for the future, then I would suggest that yes, they be included. But I do have that concern.
Well, I can't guarantee what points would or wouldn't be brought up. I mean, I think, the record's open again, so it's really up to the board how they want to manage that. If you would prefer to just ask those individuals that submitted emails while the record was closed to just submit them again to Ms. Absher, they could just merely forward them again, or to Ms. Absher's office, then, I think that's perfectly acceptable.
I would prefer that. Yeah, I would prefer that. I think the record was closed at that time, and I think it's cleaner, and in our interest of having a very clean process, I would suggest that we ask people to send it during this open record period, and to send it to the department to absolutely ensure it's included.
Another option may be, because I know schedules, there's a lot of conferences and things coming up. If this would be another acceptable option, Lynn could reach out to those parties and ask them if they would like them included now that the record has been reopened.
If you have the staffing capacity for that, I have no
think
objection.
we can help accommodate that. I know Commissioner Yamamoto, you're going to conference, and if we wanna make sure that we don't miss anybody and make sure everyone's afforded that option, we can help by sending out just even an email to everyone at once, and just say, please resubmit your comments here if you desire to do so. The other thing that we'll do is we will go through and do another notification in the Headlight Herald of this process to make sure that, because we're continuing the hearing that's been reopened, that we're doing our public notification part as well.
Right. Okay. Anything else that we need to do here? So we're continuing this public hearing. So we're continuing this public hearing, ending this portion at 10:46 a.m. So we are reconvening the board meeting, also at now 10:47 a.m. Having no further business before us, we will adjourn the board meeting.
Did you do the announcements this morning?
I have not, but you can find those announcements online and with James. Yeah, I'm not sure you still do that, our announcements, you do? Okay, so it's part of the record. So, we stand adjourned, the board meeting stands adjourned at 10:47 a.m. Thank you, everyone.